Hello and welcome once again to Good Frickin Cookin with your host, Ryan Frick. Yep, that would be me. Today we're going to make buttermilk meatloaf. Now I'm just going to come right out and admit that this is not my recipe. No, I found it online, but I've made this a couple of times and the buttermilk really adds a nice flavor and tang to this, and so I thought I'd make a video out of it. Guys, this is the kind of meatloaf you really want to eat. So without further ado, let's jump in. So in a frying pan over medium-high heat, go ahead and add in a tablespoon each of butter and extra virgin olive oil. Once that's melted down, add in one small diced onion. Hit that with just a little pinch of salt and go ahead and saute that for 6-7 minutes until it's at least translucent. Once that's done, go ahead and hit it with a couple of cloves of garlic and cook it for about a minute more. Now once that's set, go ahead and take it off the heat and let it cool down. Now the meat I use for this is a mixture of beef, veal, and pork. This stuff really works great. If you can't find it, go ahead and just use ground beef or pork or ground turkey, if you're on a diet restriction. Anyway, that's 2.5 pounds. Now hit that with a good pinch of salt, probably a couple teaspoons, and a few grinds of cracked black, probably a teaspoon. Then go ahead and add in 1 teaspoon of dried tarragon, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, ½ cup of ketchup, 2 beaten eggs, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper sauce, a cup of breadcrumbs, I use panko of course, your garlic and onion, and finally 3/4 cup of buttermilk. Now mix that up really well. Now you could use a spoon or a spatula, but the best tools I find are your hands. You gotta put the love in it. Now you could put it in one of those bread loaf pans, but I find that it sits in its own grease, so here's what I do. Lay down a sheet of aluminum foil, go ahead and dump your meat mixture out on that. Form it into a loaf, and it doesn't really matter what it is. I make mine about 6 by 4 by about 2 inches high. Just make sure it's even. Then go ahead and get a roasting pan with a rack in the bottom. Place it in there, foil and all, and then just tear the foil away from the edges. And that way it will sit above its own grease instead of sitting in it. Now you can skip this next part if you want to, but if you like a nice crust on the outside like me, this is what you do. Go ahead and set your broiler and place that under there for a good, probably 5-6 minutes at the first time out. What you want is a nice char on it, just like you see here. Then you go ahead and put on some barbecue sauce. Now you see the barbecue sauce I'm using, right? Only the best, baby. Put your hands up for Central New York. So put enough on there to cover. I really don't know how much it is, but just enough to cover it. Go ahead and paint it on nice and even. Now stick it back underneath the broiler again for another good 4 or 5 minutes, or until you get a nice crust on it again. See that? Go ahead and paint it again and stick it under the broiler again for a good 4 or 5 minutes. Now after that's done, set your oven to 350 and let it go for about a good hour, or until the internal temperature reads about 155, 160. So when it comes out, it looks like this. Oh man, doesn't that look good already? You bet. Anyway, go ahead and cover it up with aluminum foil while we go ahead and make our gravy. Now, you can skip the gravy part if you want to, but if you don't like mashed potatoes and meatloaf with the gravy, then I don't know if we can hang and have a beer. Gravy, it just makes it. Anyway, to start off, go ahead and get yourself a saucepan, throw in a couple of tablespoons of butter, melt that down, hit it with a couple tablespoons of flour, cook that for a few minutes just to get the starch out of the flour, whisk it up good there. Then go ahead and hit it with about 1.5 cups of beef broth. Now crank your heat up to high, go ahead and give that a whisk, get that thing boiling. Then go ahead and add in some ketchup, probably a couple teaspoons full or so. A little Dijon mustard, probably half a teaspoon or so of that. a splash of Worcestershire sauce, and a splash of soy sauce. Go ahead and give it a taste and adjust for salt and pepper. Now, it was salty enough for me, so a little pepper did me fine. So anyway, go ahead and continue to whisk that occasionally and continue to boil until it's reduced by about half. Now, when you get it to where you want it, see there, look at how nice that is. See how nice consistency that is? Well, your gravy's done. It's time to plate. So on your plate, go ahead and put down some mashed potatoes. Then go ahead and get a nice hunk of that meatloaf. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that look good? Now, there's no veggies on this plate. I know. I'm supposed to eat them, but I'm a guy. Meat potatoes does me just fine. Anyway, go ahead and hit all of that with the gravy. Oh, yeah. Now, I know there's barbecue sauce on the meatloaf. I don't care. Gravy's where it's at with me, so I cover everything with it. Doesn't that look delicious? I think I'll have a bite. Oh, man. Oh, that tastes so good. The nice crust on the outside with that barbecue sauce and the gravy. The texture's nice and firm. The onions and the garlic. Oh, man, with the potatoes. I can't think of anything better. I just can't. You know, not for nothing. That pretty much sums it up right there. What do you think? Well, that's it for now. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Until next time, this is Ryan Frick with Good Frickin' Cookin'. Catch you later.